name is Michaela Koberg, and this is my informative speech on 9/11. September 11, 2001 had such a large impact on so many people. To me, I do not remember it. I was 3 years old and had not a care in the world. But to those who remember, I can't imagine how shocked and scared they must have felt. There were a total of 4 airplanes that got hijacked that day. 2 planes that went to the World Trade Center, 1 that went to the Pentagon, and the other one that did not reach its final destination. I'll start with the North Tower, which was the first building to get hit. At 8:20 a.m., flight attendant Betty Ong had called an American Airlines reservation, where she spoke to a dispatcher, Nydia Gonzalez. In the call, you can hear Betty explaining how they were coming from Boston and on their way to Los Angeles, and she was on Flight 11. You can also hear how the passengers and coach could not get to the cockpit. She also mentioned how their purser and their galley flight attendant had been stabbed, and they thought Mace was on the plane because it was starting to get hard for everyone to breathe. Nydia told Betty to have the first-class passengers get back to the coach zone to get the farthest away from the cockpit. As Betty kept exchanging information, Nydia had called in Craig, an American Airlines manager. Nydia was on one line with Craig and on the other with Betty. They kept exchanging information between each other to get more information. As it kept going, you can hear at the end of the call where Betty stopped answering unexpectedly. Nydia says, "Betty, what's going on? Betty, are you there? I think we might have lost her." The call ended at 8:46 a.m. when Flight 11 flew into the North Tower at a rapid speed of 470 miles per hour. The plane hit the northeast side of the tower that extended from the 92nd to the 98th floors. They later learned that there were 92 aboard. Flight 11 was estimated carrying 10,000 gallons of fuel. A large cloud of debris covered most of New York when the tower collapsed at 10:28 a.m. They later found that there was 3 hijackers on the plane: Mohammed Atta, Marwan al-Shait, and Ziad Jarrah. This is the North Tower right here. It hit this side of the building. This information is found in history.com and findgilgroup.com. Now, could you imagine someone you love calling you and saying that the plane that they were on has been hijacked? What would your reaction be? I know I would be terrified and shocked. Brian Sweeney, a passenger on Flight 175, called his wife and left a message saying, "We've been hijacked and it doesn't look too good." He also called his mother telling her what had happened. There had been many more phone calls from the passengers on the plane, in which they described that the hijackers were using knives, mace, and a threat bomb. They said that the hijackers had stabbed some of the flight crew and that both pilots had been killed. At exactly 9:03, the South Tower of the World Trade Center had been hit. It hit the corner of the building and went through the 78th to the 84th floor. They later found that there were 65 aboard and that they were going about 590 miles per hour. The tower collapsed at 9:59 a.m. and just like the North Tower, created a huge dust cloud over most of New York. The hijackers on this plane were named Fayez Bani Hamid and 3 other brothers, Hamza and Ahmed Al-Ghami and Mohammed Al-Shari. This information is found on 911research.net and historycommons.org. Barbara Olson, a passenger on Flight 77, calmly called her husband, telling him how the hijackers had used knives and box cutters, forcing the passengers to the back of the plane. Her last few words on the phone call said, "Ted, what can I do? What can I tell the pilot?" Then unexpectedly she got cut off. At about 9:38 a.m., the jet flew into the Pentagon and exploded. The Pentagon was hit on the west side, going about 345 miles per hour. This information is found on 911research.net. You can see right here, over there where the plane crashed into it. Now, the last flight did not make it to its final destination that the hijackers were planning to go. Finally, the passengers on Flight 93 fought back. Huddled in the back of the plane, passengers were making phone calls, informing family members and officials on the ground what had happened. Once they learned that there was already 3 other attacks around the U.S., they knew they were in for the much larger attack. Interesting to me, the passengers decided to vote whether they should fight back or not. They decided that they should, finally. Thomas Burnett Jr. called his wife over the phone and said, "I know we are all going to die. There's 3 of us that are going to be in charge and do something about it. I love you." Todd Beamer said, "Are you guys ready? Let's roll," which was heard on an open line. Sandy Bradshaw, a flight attendant, was the other one of the 3 who took a stand. She called her husband and explained how she slipped into the galley and was filling pitchers with boiling water. Her last few words were, "Everyone's running to the first class. I've got to go by." The passengers and crew aboard began their counterattack at 9:57 a.m. They all ran to the door trying to break the cockpit open. The hijackers began throwing the plane all over, trying to force the passengers to become unstable. Worried that the passengers would soon break through the cockpit, they decided to crash the airplane before their destination. The airplane smashed into the ground at 580 miles per hour in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. No one knows exactly where Flight 93 was intended to go, but they believe that it was either headed towards the White House, the U.S. Capitol, Camp David, which is a presidential retreat in Maryland, or several nuclear power plants along the eastern seaboard. The plane was carrying about 7,000 gallons of fuel, which burned hundreds of acres, setting trees and near buildings on fire. Debris traveled nearly 8 miles. This information is found on history.com. Here's the field where the plane hit. 246 people had died from the 4 airplanes, from which there was no survivors. 2,606 had died in the World Trade Center or in the surrounding area, and 125 people died in the Pentagon. Total 2,996 people, including the hijackers, had died because of this horrifying, disgusting terrorist attack. September 11, 2001 is a date that had brought such a large effect on our country, on which you can still see today. The airport security has greatly increased, and you can tell our military has advanced and became more prepared for an attack like this to happen again. Every year, September 11th rolls around, our country is in grief and honors the heroes that we lost. This date will never be forgotten.